2 at the PLSA Investment Conference and a packed agenda for the 1,000 pensions professionals in Edinburgh looking for ideas and inspiration in addressing the myriad of challenges facing the investment world. From cost transparency to regulation, diversity to impact investing, leading experts discussed the key topics occupying the industry.
Investment isn't about what's happened in the past, it's about what's going to happen in the future. And the reason we started looking at tobacco was we're concerned about regulatory risk and the impact that might have on our portfolios.
Nest's Mark Fawcett examined how impact investing is not just about doing what's right, but also about getting the best result for investors, with many ESG options having far more than a simple ethical appeal.
We have a fund that overweights renewables and underweights heavy carbon emitters. So that's really important because those heavy carbon emitters are not going to do as well in the long term if we transition to a low carbon economy.
So it's actually about managing risk, not just impact investing.
Absolutely, yeah. So impact investing, is often associated with projects such as social housing, etc. Those aren't our focus. I mean, we may at some point, have the opportunities to invest in those sort of projects, but they have to generate a return for our members. So primarily we're focusing on generating returns and managing risk.
Indeed, risk management has to be at the heart of what pensions companies do, with so many people's future prosperity in their hands.
It's about changing your mindset to not running risks, from trying to be overly clever and work out with a crystal ball what the future holds, because we don't know. So manage for a range of outcomes so that none of them take you over the edge.
So good scenario planning.
Yes, and good risk management. And integrated risk management, so you're not just looking at what are interest rates going to do, you're going to look at your assets, you're going to look at your liabilities, you're going to look at your covenant. You're going to integrate the three and work out what the best outcomes can be and what the worst outcomes can be.
And one of the key factors in expectation of those outcomes is alignment between the asset owners and managers.
To be aligned with the time horizons of an investor and the time horizon of an asset manager is really the only way to actually create long-term value. And when those are not connected or aligned, then a lot breaks down.
While some focused on long-termism and alignment, others discussed the importance of value for money and transparency, with more scrutiny of costs and specifically the role played by investment consultants.
The kind of framework we look at to see whether competition is working properly is whether the clients within a market can access and assess information about the services they're buying, and if they can't do that, and we've already published something which suggests there might not be kind of the best conditions for them in this market, then it's harder for them to drive competition and get the best kind of outcomes for themselves.
With outcomes in mind, and on International Women's Day, M&G's CEO Anne Richards emphasised the stark inequality that still exists in the system.
In financial terms, there is still a gender divide. We see that women are more likely to retire with smaller pensions. They're more likely to experience poverty in old age. So there's still a gender element to things even like pensions, and trying to work out what we need to do structurally all the way through a woman's career to make sure that we get that imbalance out at the end of the day is really important. So I think for our industry, talking about International Women's Day today is partly about addressing that gap in retirement.
Your day job is trying to work out what's going to happen in the future. It's very hard to know what's going to happen in the future because it hasn't happened yet. Whereas what has happened is the past. One thing we can argue about, of course, disagree about, but we can find a place for shared facts and shared understandings is the past. It's not the best indicator we have what's going to happen, but it's somewhere to start.
Describing the past as a guide, albeit an imperfect one, and as the pensions industry try to navigate tricky geopolitical waters, historian Dan Snow offered an overview of Britain's relationship with Europe and the impact Brexit may have.
History suggests that you can distance yourself from events. You can distance yourself from the great currents of Europe. But there is absolutely nothing you can do to ensure that they keep their distance from you. I hope that if people here take away one thing, it's that what happens in Europe affects us here on these islands, whether we like it or not. Plague, Protestantism, physics, pensions have all come from Europe to here. and there's been nothing we can do about that. And so we have a choice of trying to gain influence in Europe and try and shape those innovations they happen there, or of pulling up the drawbridge and hoping somehow that we can deal with them when they arrive.
Potential lessons to be learnt from history for an industry looking for crucial answers to ensure the very best outcomes for long-term savers.